right, folks, welcome back to World Class Nerd. I'm your host, Bryan Lamb, and I'm joined again by my lovely wife, Heather. Say hello, Heather.
Hello.
And
Hello, Heather.
always, Paul Davis is with us.
Beltalada, or however you say that.
That was something. I don't know what that was, but that was something.
They say that on the show we're about to discuss tonight.
Beltalada.
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 The Belters say that.
Beltalada. Like you're a
okay,
belter.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Paul. When you have an accent as thick as ours, you don't try those other crazy things.
No, their accent is as thick as ours, but just in a different way. So it's kind of difficult.
Half Jamaican, half something else.
Belter, I believe.
Nice try, Baratna. So Danny Wade is still on. We'll say Danny's on administrative leave. We're going to say we put him under some sort of disciplinary actions, and maybe someday we'll tell you the story of what he did wrong.
Well, if you read the National Enquirer, you'll find the story. Just look under the page 3, and he's there.
Yeah, or maybe
sordid detail of him and the Sasquatch.
What was the one that used to do the Bat Boy?
As either Weekly World News or the Enquirer. I think it's Weekly World News.
Yeah.
The Globe.
Incidentally, I've actually visited the cave where the Bat Boy is supposed to live in West Virginia. The cave was amazing. No Bat Boy, though.
Well, how disappointing.
Didn't know that was the Bat Boy's cave until I went there, but either way.
And we've gotten started on a rabbit trail already. For those of you who watched the last Tales from the Long Box, I apologize for Tales from the Long-Winded Box. Boy, we like talking for sure.
Well, the problem was we didn't speak at all the entire week before this, so we had a lot of built up crap to talk about.
We got off topic. Once or thrice,
or thrice, yeah,
or more.
Yeah.
All right, so tonight we're going to talk about The Expanse. We're going to talk about the first half of season 5 of The Expanse, and also we're going to have a little update on Wandavision after episode 4 has now dropped, and we've had time to digest everything that was episode 4. And we'll just take this opportunity, guys. Go check out Tales from the Long Box if you like comic books at all, and check out our YouTube channel if you're not checking out our YouTube channel right now. If you're just watching on YouTube, go listen to the podcast version. And you guys are going to have to help us out, and somebody needs to do one of these voice message things off the Anchor website for us. Again, I will leave the link in the show notes. Somebody go click on this thing, leave us a voice message, even if you just tell us to go pound sand, whatever it is. Just give us something so we know that this works and how it works.
I hope that's all they say.
And
maybe I am looking to upgrade my auto insurance. I mean, call us to let us know.
That's right, yeah. Pass it on to those guys. Let them give us a voice message, whatever it takes. Check out the website. Oh, there's all sorts of links down there in the show notes. So look around, click on some of them, see what they do. Some of them might take you to a place where you can buy a cool T-shirt. You should buy one. Really, they're cool. All right, so The Expanse, season 5. So we're picking up after the events of the Ring Gate, and they survived nearly certain death on Illis. And if you read the comics that tie into this season, like Paul and I have, then you get a little bit of a preview of some of the things that were going to happen in this season. It's nothing that's essential reading, but it's kind of nice to fill in a little bit of the gaps, particularly for Bobby and for Christian. So it just kind of gives a little more detail. Yeah, it gives a little more detail on how Christian continues to struggle to find her identity a little bit, and Bobby, it gives a little more detail of how Bobby starts down the road of investigating the Martian corruption. So, kind of good comics, but it's not essential reading. But those are big themes of this season. So we had the whole thing with the ring gates and Illis, and now the balance of power has shifted between Earth, Mars, and the Belt and the OPA. So not so much a need for Mars anymore, and that kind of takes off pretty early on. What do you think of how things went down for Alex, particularly in his part of the story early on? Heather?
I didn't think I wasn't surprised. I knew that was pretty much going to go the way it did with his wife. It did show kind of how clueless Alex can really be in certain respects. Dude's got no game.
I don't know. The scene where he's in the bar, the Western bar on Mars, sitting on a saddle, I think that's all the game a guy needs, You
can get that at the local co-op.
I love the fact that there's this weird, like, Wild West kind of vibe with, Alex and some of his cohorts that he's hung around on Mars. It's just a weird thing. I don't know.
I felt bad for Alex, like Heather said. You saw it coming a mile away. His wife was going to reject him and say, you're not in our life anymore by your choice, so we don't want to be in yours. I'm hoping his son, he'll be able to see some of his son, more of his son, but never know.
Yeah, the thing, and again, I don't want to constantly reference the comics, but again, Paul and I just talked about this the other night on Tales from the Long Box. There was an Expanse Origins miniseries that went into a little bit of detail for each of the main characters on the Rossi. And Alex's, I think it's kind of an important thing to know what they did with Alex's character in the comic, because it's not so cut and dry between him and his wife. You look at what we've seen on the show, and it looks like he's kind of a jerk, and this is all on him. But in the comic, it doesn't really play out that way. There's more to it. There's more responsibility that lies with her and with her family as well. This was basically like, how would you describe it, Paul? An arranged marriage, right?
Yeah, I mean, it struck me as an arranged marriage, and neither one of the parties knew each other very well prior. So this was instead of dating your significant other, you just meet them and you're married, and they have to try to get to know each other and find common ground. And that's a pretty difficult situation.
Yeah.
So
why did they have to do that?
Bryan,
was that a Mars thing?
It was, I think more or less kind of a Mars thing. Struggling to remember the details of it exactly now, but I think it was sort of a Mars.
That's why I asked you, because Heather put me on the spot and I had no idea. So, Bryan, take that question, please.
I think it was kind of a Mars thing, and also like her family thing. Like her family really embraced that whole aspect, and they were really kind of rigid about it. And it just, I don't want to spoil too much of the comic because it's worth a read. So, if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about Alex's backstory in particular, because they don't go into it as much in the show, the comic is really it's a good resource for that, and it just shines a different light on it. We talked a little bit about also how Amos got his backstory revealed a little bit in the comic as well, but you're seeing that play out in season 5 pretty strongly. I mean, the whole storyline where he goes back to Baltimore, that tells you the same story. You don't need to see it.
And that's pretty solid story too. I mean, you can see that he is he was forgotten, but not forgotten. Once people figure out who he is, he's pretty well feared and respected.
Yeah.
The one-handed gangster guy was pretty adamant about him not being back and ready to kill him.
Yeah.
And then once he found out what he was doing, he was pretty keen to get him away. Just go away. Whatever you need, go away. Leave my territory alone. So he was still feared and respected.
Anybody else surprised by the one-handed gangster? Like,
I was.
I wasn't expecting him to be like, some little namby-pamby guy, which is kind of what he looks like.
He didn't strike fear in me. He's not a guy that I would. If I was cornered of him in the alley, I'm thinking I could take him. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's that tough at all.
Well, he's obviously probably a little smarter than he is physical. I'd say if Amos and this dude were to be, if they were friends or, pseudo family or whatever, this guy was probably more the brains. And that's how he got his power. His muscle can, they come and go.
True. Amos.
It's awesome.
Amos is one of my favorite characters by far. The whole prison scene I don't remember, and I'm gonna be ignorant. Was there any mention of Peaches anywhere before we saw her in the prison? Because I don't remember her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was all last season, man.
That was
last season?
No, season before last, right?
Season 3.
Yeah, I think she was in season 3. That was the daughter of the guy who
Mao,
who had done all the stuff with the proto-molecule.
Yeah.
Okay.
The sister of the character who died at the beginning of the series. Julie Mao. Yeah, that was her sister.
Okay.
It's
been a while since I've seen,
and was going to kill, basically the whole crew.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen season 3 and 4, to be honest. So I'd kind of forgotten about her or Mal.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool touch to bring her back and explore her thing a little more, because I think it was you, Heather, that was saying you got the sense that she was really remorseful for what she did, and kind of made her character a little more interesting.
Yeah. She quit being the wannabe sister, the favorite child. She quit being that so much, and seemed like she owned what she did, and she felt bad about it. And I thought, well, that makes her, that fleshes her out a little bit more. She seemed so two-dimensional in the season 3.
Yeah.
When she was doing all this, and you were just like, really? But this season with her showing up, and I like that her and Amos really, they have a chemistry, I guess, together. He feels a kinship with her.
I wish Tiny had been able to stick around some more.
Oh, I knew Tiny was biting it as soon as he showed up.
Tiny was one-dimensional, and he was great.
Skipping ahead. We're getting too far into season 5 here. We're trying to keep
spoilers.
First half of season 5. Limit your discussion, Paul.
I was thinking that was like episode 4.
No, that was like 6.
Was it? Okay.
6 and beyond is when Tiny really kind of got involved. Great character, though. Great whole sequence with him from beginning to end.
I know you have a kindred spirit with other bald men, but you're going too far, Paul.
Tiny might have had a big old head, and where Paul depends on the big old head.
It wasn't for the body modification. He probably did have a big old head.
Like MODOK.
Yeah, MODOK.
MODOK, folks.
Yeah,
Micro MODOK.
Micro MODOK. He's kind of a Bane character.
I won't describe that for everybody who's not on YouTube. Paul gave a visual.
Let's just say I found a MODOK action figure while going through my house and noticing it in my son's room. I forgot he had it. So
if he had noticed it earlier, he would have stole it much sooner.
Showed it much earlier in the show.
All right, so kind of touching back on Amos and Peaches. Um, if Danny were here, he would say they're both damaged, and that's where the kindred spirit thing kind of comes from. Is they're both somewhat lacking a moral compass, and they need somebody to help them kind of stay on true north. And neither of them is that person, but they bond over that.
No, can you not kind of see that Amos seemed to be her moral compass? Not so much because he was saying what we're doing is wrong, but more that he made her question what we're doing is wrong. Oh, yeah,
I mean, it's maybe reflectively, like after the fact,
well.
he's a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, no.
When they're both standing there talking about how they've just killed somebody and for really no reason whatsoever, they've killed that person, and maybe they shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I guess retrospectively, they're good for each other. I don't know, but I like them as a team. It seems like this season, James Holden has not really been very active in what's going on in this season. He's not, first half he doesn't do a lot.
I would call this a James Holden light season.
Mm-hmm. So far, it's been much more about the other characters. It seems to be.
Yeah. Well, Heather and I talked about this the other day. It's like Holden's most of his plot threads have been wrapped up already, right? Mm-hmm. And it's people like Amos and Alex and Bobby and Christian who are the ones who have something that's got to be resolved about their character development. So they're really kind of honing in on them, and Naomi, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
She's a big.
I would this season so far seems to be very Naomi centric to me.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't really got a lot of her stuff, other than the fact that she's a belter,
mm-hmm.
and she does weird things. But they've been kind of mysterious about her particular background. I mean, they give little hints, but they've never really delved too far into it. That's always kind of with her. When Holden has ever mentioned it, it's been kind of a taboo subject. And I think the only ones that really knew anything about it they knew who she was. She was obviously in the Belter Society. She was quite legendary. But Fred Thompson, right? Thompson?
Mm-hmm. Fred.
And Drummer, they were really the only two I think she has ever that know the whole story, the full story, outside of, Marcos.
So Marco Inaros he's a pretty good villain. I mean,
I was going to say he's a good guy you love to hate.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
The actor is superb with it. I mean, he really makes you believe crazy.
Mm-hmm. And a planning, thinking villain. I mean,
yes.
I like that. He's got a lot of things worked out. He's got big plans. He's got big ideas. Ambitious, and he puts his money where his mouth is.
Not always. Not always, Paul.
So on the planning and scheming side, yes, he's steps ahead of everybody, and he's willing to go to some big lengths. But I think what Heather is referring to is the scene where he's called out by the big guy, and he basically says, if you want to space Naomi, you do it. You go space her.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a problem with that, you can take me if you want to take me. Maybe mm-hmm. I'm finally old enough and you can take me. And that didn't happen. He
that just adds to his character for me. He's a big mouth but a coward.
Yeah,
he's a coward.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it adds.
Well,
he like that's he's willing to use anybody and everybody, but sometimes he's not willing to get his hands dirty, and that's interesting. That's
He's no Ned Stark. Well, in so many different ways, he's no Ned Stark.
Yeah, that the guy who plays him is doing an absolutely fantastic job. Really makes you hate him. They've written him well. Well, let's talk about, before we dig back into each character's stories here. Let's talk about some memorable things, big moments that have happened in season 5. I was not personally expecting Earth to get bombarded with asteroids. Just wasn't expecting that to happen.
No, I mean that's what I was talking about. He's putting his money where his mouth is. He said he was going to make a big showing. He was going to punish the Earthers, the Inners. He did. That was
the Inners.
That was a very big blow to humankind.
Oh yeah. That just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it's so. Paul, you and I were talking the other night on Tales from the Long Box, and we were talking about Christian and her sort of turning her back on her family a little bit and leaving them, isolated from her, and the reason that she did that, beyond just she couldn't let go of being involved in politics. I mean, she literally is the only reason there's as much of Earth left standing as there is.
Right.
And you could see she was fighting like crazy to try to stop this thing, because she was the only one who really saw it coming. And that adds a lot of depth to her and a lot of complication, because she's not just a career politician. This isn't just an ego thing for her. Like, she really knew what was coming, and she's got everybody's best interests at heart. So you understand why she is a little distant from her family, I guess.
Well, in the first season, when they were, I think, in her friend's office, she was looking for the pencils. Maybe the second season, but regardless, she was talking about how she would sit in with her dad, and they would talk about it. And basically, her dad always said she saw the angles. She had a very killer gift with politics and seeing all the plays. And I think that really foreshadowed about, in this particular instance, in them trying to get to Earth, all that destruction and stuff. But nobody believed her. I think that's her honest thing, is they always underestimate her for some reason.
Yeah, even after all she's done.
Even after all she's done. Or as hard as she has been.
Mm-hmm. So Fred Johnson getting capped and not coming out of it. There's another one just like hot on the heels of Earth getting blasted.
I did not see that coming, not a bit. I thought he was going to be one of the main characters that would last a while,
Yeah.
I don't know. His thing had already played out. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't foresee it, but his character had evolved to a point that I was wondering where they would take him next. I mean, I'm wondering that with James Holden right now. How much further can he go? But Fred, it was still a shock to see. I figured they might just kind of forget Taco Station and do something else, and Fred would just be left in the background. But
yeah,
nope, they just killed him.
Well, Freddy boy had that one thing that everybody's after. The proto-molecule.
Because that worked out so well for everybody else.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want that? It just completely changed Venus.
Well, and that's, you get the two-pronged plan here from from Marco to blast Earth and then also snag the proto molecule. And then he's working this deal with Mars where he's building the free navy. And it feels like, and in that episode where Fred Johnson gets killed and they take the proto molecule, you've already seen Earth devastated. It felt like the culmination of all the things that have been building since season 1, with the belt, wanting to rail against the inners. I mean, these are things that were kind of foreshadowed in a way since the very beginning. And Earth's broken, Mars is broken, and the Belters, out of nowhere, look like they hold all the cards.
Like we said on Tales from a Long Box, this is a shifting in priorities for the entire Expanse universe, and things have shifted away from Mars. They're on the new frontier. There's people traveling back and forth to new worlds through the ring gates. So everybody's trying to fill the void that is the power void that's left. I mean, used to, the belt was the frontier, Mars was the military, Earth was the origin. Now everything is shifting to new planets. So people are trying to jockey and find new positions.
Why would you hang out on Mars, which is essentially a dead, useless planet,
Exactly.
when you can go through the ring and you can not have to worry about Earth or the belt?
Yep. And you have, like you said, livable, breathable atmosphere. It's already terraformed. Mars is a dead world and a dead end. So why would you keep worrying about it?
But
staying there.
Those military fellas, they are struggling with, the old guard. They're struggling to let their power go. Something new, perhaps, is just too unimaginable. Suddenly they would be useless, or they don't have enough imagination to redefine their self. I mean, they could be warlords on a new planet. They could own the whole thing, but instead they're going to sell ships to Marcos and ours.
Yeah. There's part of me that wanted to see more of what's on the other side of the ring gates, more exploration. That's the sci-fi junkie in me. I want to know what the rest of these planets look like, but I don't think that's what this story is. This story is about the struggle between the belt, the Mars, and Earth. Maybe we'll get more proto-molecule stuff in season 6, but that's not this season. It seems to have a very defined arc this season.
This season seems to be political intrigue.
Yeah.
And I, too, was looking forward to more adventures through the ring gates. And I was hoping we'd see something more, So far, we've seen one planet in season 4.
Oh, that worked out real
I want more. Yeah, that didn't work out too well for the people involved. And I want more. I want to see more.
It's very entertaining.
Maybe that'll be the spin-off series will be what happens through the gate. The Expanse through the gate.
Yeah, like the Expanse Atlantis. That would be a good show.
As long as they don't go to the Expanse. What was that horrible
universe?
Oh, the Expanse universe. Oh, that would just, yeah. It was so bad I've even forgotten it.
Yeah, it's almost like the writers of another show have got involved in this one. And didn't you say there's some Atlantis, Stargate people that come with Expanse?
I don't think so.
Okay. Seems like it. There's rings, there's portals.
You get that DC too.
I'm telling you, that's just a trope now. The circular shaped portal that takes you. It's
easy.
That's a trope. Everybody's going to use that now. That's what it is.
Remember, in Babylon 5 they had jump gates, and those were some strange little doohickeys.
We're dangerously close to slip down a rabbit trail that isn't gonna
Babylon 5. That's another show.
There are some similarities between the Expanse and Babylon 5. We could maybe talk about that after we pause for a word, not from our sponsors, but a word about our sponsors from me, honestly. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back, folks. We are discussing The Expanse, Season 5. And then we're going to talk about WandaVision here once we wrap up our Expanse discussion. So we haven't really talked a lot about what specifically is going on with Naomi. She's been captured by Marco. People ought to know by now. We're crazy here. She's been captured by Marco. She was delivered to Marco by her son, Philip, who is also Marco's son. If you need to know how that all works, well, that's a different show entirely. So
That's the birds and the bees.
Yeah, it's when two belters love each other very much. There's tools and salvage involved. It's very
when a male belter gets the ship for the first time. Never mind.
Okay, just stop.
So what do you think about the relationship with Philip so far? Is that believable? Is she going to redeem this kid or what?
Yeah, I think so.
It's complicated. I feel bad for the kid because he is being torn apart by his love for his father who raised him and his mother who he's wanted to have a relationship with all his life and now in his life, and she's a bad guy in his mind, the way his father is portraying her. I feel bad for the kid. I honestly do.
Well, I think we've all seen how a Belter custody battle goes.
Falls an airlock.
Yeah.
They don't play around with alimony and stuff. It's child support. It's just be spacing somebody.
Yep.
Drummer. Let's talk about Drummer just a little bit. Drummer who has been portrayed every single episode of every single season as this really hard person, and she is the last person I would have expected to not go on some kind of rampage trying to kill Marco and Aros. But so far, nothing.
I think Drummer's having a bit of an identity crisis herself. I mean, she led Fred. I mean, her and Fred were, tight. And then she really came to respect, I cannot think of his name right now, but the old guy.
Yes. And I too have drawn a blank.
Yeah, I can't think of it right now. But she really grew to be quite fond of him. But at the same time now she's the captain of her own ship. She's juggling all these different personalities, and then on top of that, now she's having to she's kind of having to follow orders from someone she absolutely loathes, and I think she's also dealing with a bunch of regret where Marcos is concerned.
That whole series with her and her ship and her crew is very interesting. There's a lot of interplay there. You see the dimension to her character that I've never seen before, and the interplay was not a pun, but okay. There's a lot going on there.
Yes, there is.
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's about all we'll say about that. So, Bobby, she spent the first little bit of this season kind of bitter. But
didn't want to drink at the cowboy bar.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you pull up a saddle next to Alex?
For some reason, I don't see Bobby Draper going to Cotton Eye Joe's with Alex.
No, unless she's there to beat somebody up.
She's the bouncer.
Yeah. if she had a bounty there, I could see her being a bounty hunter and pulling somebody out, kicking and screaming against the will. I love the Bobby Draper character.
I love Bobby and Amos are probably my favorite.
Paul and I were lamenting
Bobby and Alex.
Yeah, I like those two together, actually. Paul and I were lamenting the fact that we didn't get to see more of Bobby, and I don't know, maybe that happens in season 6, but we didn't get to see more of Bobby with the whole Rocinante crew.
Yeah.
As a full-fledged member of the crew for multiple seasons. That's what I would have really liked to have seen, but, they needed to drive the story in a different direction, and she was the vehicle to do that. So, but it's kind of nice to see that she very quickly recovered and figured out, are we boring you, Heather?
No. Just have the yawns. I'm not getting enough oxygen to the brain. Yeah.
Wow. Bobby Draper. Let's move on before I.
Science, Paul. It's science.
It's genetics, Heather. It's genetics.
So, Bobby has very quickly sort of found some footing again, and the angst over Mars being not, what it once was is not really a big thing for her anymore. It's more, it's more about her having a mission, right? She has a purpose now.
Mm-hmm.
She's not distracted by the things with Mars. She's focused on finding out who's playing dirty pool. The Rocinante has not made much of an appearance in this season either, right? So
no, you see it in dry dock.
Are both kind of idle right now.
No, I like that it has the what is that little race car ship?
Oh, the Razorback.
Yeah,
the Razorback. I like that we've seen more of that.
Yeah.
And I do wonder how do they tow that along? Do they do the docking like the Belters do? With Naomi's ship, and they kind of have cuddle ships and they just fly like that, or do they pull it back like a wagon, or a pull along? Or
honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's space. It could be pulled. It could be docked. I don't know.
No, there's some Expanse nerds out there who are just absolutely giving themselves the facepalm right now that we don't know how that works.
Okay, and that's the thing. If you are an Expanse nerd, go on our channel and comment. Make a comment. Educate us.
Tell us how dumb we are because we don't know it.
Yeah. I think we're pretty.
Paul has no feelings. Feelings won't be hurt. He doesn't have
any. I've been told I'm dumb so many times it doesn't faze me anymore. But I welcome you to tell me once again.
We're that hungry for some kind of feedback that we don't care. You abuse us, whatever. We just want to see how this thing works. So, yeah, tell us. Is this a strong season in your eyes, Paul? Is this what you were?
It's a different season. Yes, it's strong because it furthers the story of the Expanse. It's not what I expected. I am enjoying it. Would I like to have seen more space battles and more through the ring gate? Absolutely. Am I good with the political intrigue? Yeah. I mean, it mirrors the political intrigue you're seeing in our real world today. I mean, if you sit back and watch, we're watching political intrigue now. In a way, it's not fun to watch sci-fi because it's mirroring the real world too much, and it brings in some weird feelings. But yes, it's a good season. I look forward to the second half being a little more action-packed, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really, for me, it's a really strong season. It didn't go in the direction I was expecting at all. But, man, when you start hitting Earth with asteroids and there is no more, Secretary General and, no more real need for Tycho Station to ever be a focal point again at the moment. There's some big things that have happened this season. I can see that this is heading towards its conclusion pretty rapidly for season 6. So
I like the setup part about it. I totally see this, at least the first half of it, being a setup season where they are setting up all the threads. They're preparing you for the big battles and all that good stuff. I did like when they blew up when they sent the meteorite and it blew up the Secretary General. It felt very Battlestar Galactica. In that kind of had that feel. Yeah. So that was pretty cool to kind of get that play on it. But I do expect the next little bit to be, I hope, brutal. Is that bad?
It shifts gears, but yeah, coming into the last half of the season, there's a lot that's got to be resolved before you can move on from this.
Do we know how many episodes this season is going to be? I know Amazon's been dropping them once a week.
10 episodes.
How many?
10.
10. Okay.
So we've all watched a little more than just the first half. We're just trying to talk about the first half, but we know more than what we're talking about here, obviously. So we're all close to the end of this thing now, and this upcoming week is it. That's the end of the season. So.
Oh, you're kidding!
Didn't realize it was just 10. It was 10. Yeah, they got a lot of crap to resolve. Or a lot of crap to leave hanging.
It is. I mean, 10 is more than we normally get, honestly. So.
See, just when the episodes start ramping up, it's done, and then you're screaming at the TV and horrible things because you needed a little bit more. I mean, kind of like the Wandavision this week.
I don't know how long it's going to be before we get more new Expanse. I don't know how the pandemic has affected their schedule.
Everything.
It's affected everything in not a good way.
Nerds need their nerd shows.
But now let's bear in mind, we just came out of the Mandalorian season 2, rolled right into the Expanse, and then also rolled into WandaVision, which now it's time to segue into WandaVision. We'll talk more Expanse next week and wrap up the entire season 5. But with WandaVision, we just had episode 4 drop, and what a brilliant thing to just interrupt that whole flow of going 50s, 60s, 70s, and we're all waiting for the 80s, and then they drop a whole bunch of answers in our laps.
I know it.
Yeah.
Paul, what stood out from that episode?
No AMI, no MODOK, no big old head.
No MODOK.
It was a guy from Sword that went through the sewers and came out in a hazmat suit, and it was redone into a beekeeper suit. What stood out? Another thing that stood out to me is Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo from Marvel comic fans. That character had been seen before in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I don't remember his name ever being said as Jimmy Woo.
No, I don't think it was.
And the fact that he did the little magic trick that he'd been working on, I mean, that was a great callback to the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. And the fact that now we have Jimmy Woo, which leads us to the Agents of Atlas. And, all that potential storyline for future Marvel shows is fantastic.
Yeah. The big reveal happened this week. Of course, we kind of knew it was coming, but Monica Rambeau, she was Captain Marvel in the comics. She was also Photon in the comics. I thought that was a really nice little Easter egg that her mom's call sign was Photon. She walked by the plaque for her mom there.
And if you folks are trying to piece where you've heard all this, if you've watched the Captain Marvel movie, that was Captain Marvel's best friend. That's Photon, and that's her little daughter that idolized Captain Marvel, and her Aunt Carol in the movie. So this is and that was in the 90s, so this is her grown up. I thought that was a good callback to another Marvel movie.
Yep. So it confirms that she, obviously came into that whole situation from outside. Look, the biggest outcome of the whole episode is this is just Wanda doing this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Hydra, there's no AIM, there's no, any of that sort of stuff. This is Wanda basically taking this town over and turning these people into little puppets and performing a show for her because of her grief. And that's pretty dark when you really stop and think about it.
That's dark and frightening that she has this much power.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a level of power that we've seen in the comics. Wanda is immensely powerful. She's an omega level powered individual, but this is one of the most powerful things we've seen in the Marvel cinematic universe. And she has taken over a whole town and basically put a force field around it that keeps people not necessarily out physically, but people don't see the town. They don't have some kind of psychic suggestion, whatever. They don't want to go near the town. We saw that with the police officers. That just we never heard of Westview. Don't know what you're talking about, and they're right there at the sign saying Westview behind. It was.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice touch that Wu and Monaco kept looking at the sign like,
yeah,
dudes, it's right there. It's right there.
It was really cool to see all those little touches. Everything that everybody has speculated on basically was covered in, who's that voice? Who's that voice that was talking to him through the radio? Well, it was Wu. The drone, that turned into just a little toy helicopter. The beekeeper guy. It was all the really weird little touches and everything that we've all been racking our brains about. It was all right there, and kind of wrapped
and
up.
the fact that there was like a computer desk with an old timey TV and an old timey radio set up, and it had the feel of it had the feel of a Lost TV show and the mystery of what's going on and the strange things behind it. How that was explained. I mean, for some reason, it's broadcasting on old TV network signals and radio signals.
Let Lost die. Just let it die.
But this has that feel.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I guess it's cool because they were speculating in the show, right? In show, they're speculating like all of us viewers have been speculating. They even got drawn into it the same way that all the viewers got drawn into it. And, they spent time watching the show instead of researching so much.
Ooh, and they showed little outtakes that we hadn't seen, that we weren't privy to.
Yeah, more detail. Pretty creepy to see Vision as a corpse.
A corpse?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Which makes me think that that's what's going on. That his body is reanimated by her power. And, that's dark.
That's dark.
She is snuggling up to that, man.
And her children, are they real? Are they fantasy? Are they a little of both?
Are they going to go with the comics on that one? And how they were made to be.
How they disappeared, and Wanda went
cuckoo, cuckoo.
Yeah, cuckoo, cuckoo. And that led you to M Day and No More Mutants. It was bad. He almost did genocide, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this whole thing is setting up House of M to a certain extent, and M Day, and does that somehow roll into the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU somehow?
Yeah,
potentially. I mean, there's that between that and Doctor Strange and his multiverse stuff. The X-Men, and then,
it would also. Sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead, Heather.
I was going to say it would also further the Thor storyline as well, his movie franchise, if they went that way, because that tied her into the whole Ragnarok kind of deal and the formation of the new Avengers or the Young Avengers.
Oh, and the new Spider-Man storyline coming up with Spider-Man from maybe different times, different dimensions. They're to me, they look like they're spinning it. So yeah, this Wanda thing could lead to an M Day and somehow introduce mutants to the world. Not sure how they're going to do it, but it very well could be leading that way.
Yeah, I just wonder if that's the easiest way to segue into X-Men stuff, is because Wanda has at least a tenuous connection to Magneto, and do you really pull on that thread a little bit and introduce the X-Men that way? I don't know, but
does she have a thread to him in the MCU?
No,
they've never really discussed it in the MCU.
Okay.
Yeah, just
now,
as far as Magneto was completely solely owned by Sony, so he was only the X-Men franchise, and Wanda was in the Marvel franchise. So they've never talked, as far as I know, never been connected.
Yeah, I don't think it was Sony. I think it was Fox.
Yeah, Sony has Fantastic Four.
Sony has
and
Spider-Man.
Oh,
maybe Fox has Fantastic Four too.
Fantastic Four. That's why the MCU is getting ready to unveil both of those. Right, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are now a legitimate Marvel property again. So.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, where does it go next? We're no longer looking for answers as far as what's going on. I think now we're looking at what are we looking at next?
I think it gets really dark. I mean, I do. I think that her little world is going to start getting invaded, and she's going to start defending herself, and it's going to be bad.
I think it is already dark with corpse dude running around.
We didn't know how dark it was until the veil was pulled back slightly this episode, and it's extremely dark.
I would not be surprised to see Pietro. I mean, she's dealing with bringing people back from the dead already, so
Well, she just remembered she was a twin. I mean, she really just acknowledged that she was a twin.
Yep, and her children are twins, which if she's magically controlling these, she will twins to come out. Why not bring Pietro's corpse back? It's not out of the realm of her powers, I don't believe, and that's scary.
We're heading up for the zombie multiverse.
Marvel zombies.
Introducing. I don't know. I mean, I guess we're just going to see Sword being the folks involved in this. I don't think they're going to go to the trouble of bringing in some major guest stars, other than I would expect to see Pietro.
I was wondering though if they're not considering bringing in the Enchantress from Asgard, because now in the comics, the Scarlet Witch and the Enchantress were enemies, and she's a big time magic user as well. I mean, she's Loki level.
Yeah, I don't think they've really even introduced her character though in the MCU, have they?
She hasn't. They haven't. That's why I wondered if they would bring her in to this.
I would expect they would.
They didn't even do. Well, they brought Lorelai, her sister, in with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I was kind of surprised because Lorelai she was big, but she wasn't. She didn't last long. She wasn't huge.
But wasn't a name like
the Enchantress.
Heather's an Enchantress fangirl. So.
Yes, I am. Heather's got her little hero clique, so the Enchantress.
Oh my! Well, I'm looking for a MODOK hero click now. Thank you. Thank you. Just give me an idea.
Oh yeah. Well, my children are not allowed to play with those.
Those are the only ones that like the Heather specific ones, they're not allowed to play with. They've already broken many of mine. So.
Oh yeah, I have a whole room of action figures displayed that Ben and his cohorts destroy whenever they come over, and it's been happening for many years. Just they now they know to put my action figures back in their proper place when they're done destroying.
And we know what that means, Paul. We know that certain ones are only positioned to look directly due north, and others
Exactly.
Okay.
Galactus needs to be facing this way.
So I got to do it. We're going to go on a tangent, and then we'll wrap this up. But Paul, the first time I came to visit Paul's house, I went into Paul's room, and his cousin, I believe, was there as well. And I go into Paul's room, and I'm just in awe of all the action figures that Paul has. Most of them superhero action figures, and they're all standing, in
Posed position.
Yeah. And Paul leaves, and we cooked up the idea between me and his cousin to reposition some of his action figures as a ha, not a funny joke, but we were going to do that. We moved some of his stuff around, not many, honestly. And I kid you not, the moment Paul Davis walked back into the room, it was like, what have you done? What is he doing over there? He's not supposed to turn that way. I mean, he fixed every move that we made immediately upon coming back into the room. I'd never seen that much.
I remember this. You know why? Because Venom was 2 paces in front of Daredevil, and he was not supposed to. I remember this. That led me to look around the rest of the room.
Well,
you moved Strong Guy, and you moved Deadpool.
That was foreshadowing for multiple years later that when we went to your newly purchased home and your newly set up man cave, and Bryan did the same thing, and I think he only moved Captain Marvel or Shazam, and
one of my Captain Marvel.
And it's like you sniffed it right out as soon as you walked through the threshold. Something has been disturbed.
Well,
and my son has the same sickness. He knows when something of his has been moved also.
That's not a sickness, Paul. That's called being taught.
That's called OCD.
That's very much. I can tell you this: Paul didn't need to even see that the Captain Marvel was moved. Paul felt through the floor that Captain Marvel, and he knew immediately.
My giant Galactus action figure. When the boys are messing with him, I get a message. I hunger, and I'm being touched. Come get me.
Oh, Paul. Oh, Paul.
I wouldn't have phrased it that way.
Well, it's not like one of those dummies they use in police things. Like, where did the bad man touch you? It was not like that dummy.
Let's just stop there.
All right, let's rein this in if we can.
Let's wrap it up.
So the Expanse. We'll talk about season 5, the second half of the season next week. Been a powerful season so far. Wandavision, we got a lot of answers. We know who's behind it all now, and it's Wanda. And she's messed up.
And Wanda's crazy.
Yeah.
Wanda needs help.
Yes.
Professional help.
So now it's all just about, watching this train wreck happen for a few more episodes until, finally somebody breaks loose somehow. I don't know. At the end of this, maybe the Vision's alive again. Maybe they actually do have twins. Maybe even Pietro's alive at the end of this. But I would imagine the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe will be giving her the side eye from here on out, because that's some dark stuff she's done.
Well, in the comics, they give her the side eye now. I mean, she's not really fully trusted.
Yeah. She was the big bad in the eyes of the X-Men in the Powers of X and House of X stuff. they referred to her as basically public enemy number one. So, yeah. All right. So, any last words, Paul?
If you haven't watched The Expanse, but you've tuned into our episode just to be curious about it, if we may not have done a good enough job justifying the show. The show is really, really good. If you haven't watched any of it, please start watching it, and you will see the more you continue with the series and the further you get into it, the better it becomes. So if you're not an Expanse fan and you're curious, go back, watch 1 through 5, that series. It's great.
Yep. I agree 100%. Heather, what do you got to say about WandaVision to wrap it up?
WandaVision. Oh, it just gets better and better, and it's never long enough. If I'm going to go with Paul, if you haven't started watching WandaVision, that is definitely must-see TV right there.
If you haven't started watching WandaVision, we spoiled the crap out of all of it for you. So.
Oh yeah, just start where the new episodes go because you're caught up.
Yeah, watch it anyway because it's prettier on the screen than we are. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We're better actors too. Yeah. we're terrible.
Weren't they though? They are amazing. I mean, both shows have amazing casts.
Mm-hmm.
This is my closing thought on that. What a great job by the actress who played Monica Rambeau to portray a slightly youngish feeling Monica Rambeau in the opening sequence when she comes back from the blip, and then for her to feel like a fully mature agent of S.W.O.R.D. later in the show. She's showing some real acting chops and some real range there as well, just like everybody else on that show is at this point. So kudos.
And actually, we didn't mention one of the characters. The actress Kat Denning is one of the scientists.
Yeah, she's epic.
Instant breakout hit.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah,
I was not a big fan of her character in the Thor movies, but I don't know. This character's grown on me. You know, I like her.
Yeah.
Oh no, I loved her as soon as. I mean, I've loved her since she's been on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, we hope you've enjoyed our discussion of The Expanse. We'll be back to wrap that one up next week. And then we'll discuss WandaVision episode 5. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of surprises waiting for us in that one as well. This has been the crew from World Class Nerd. And we wish you a good night and a good week. And we'll talk to you soon.